banner yet wave, o'er the land of the and the home of the that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Grace and peace, you guys. Welcome back to Unshakable with April Chapman, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. I'm your host, April Chapman, and welcome to tonight's live stream. I'm so grateful to be here with you this evening. In fact, we are preparing for Stormageddon 2026 down here in the great state of Georgia. They keep saying it's going to snow and it's going to be ice, but I've been waiting all day for something to pop off. And now it's dark outside and it doesn't look like it's doing anything out there. But I'm preparing to be snowed in, whether it snows or not, because I don't feel like going nowhere. But depending on where you are watching us, you are probably awaiting some sort of nor'easter or storm or ice storm, and hopefully you've got plenty of water and wood and batteries and all of the other things that would be necessary for you to be kind of hunkered down and safe. But I'm grateful to be here with you this evening. I think I have hit a record for the number of live streams that I have done this week. I don't know why I've live streamed so much. Normally I do a lot of pre-recorded content. In fact, I dropped a video earlier today, y'all. Did y'all see what Pam Grier was out here doing on The View? If you're late to the party, I dropped a video at 6:30, about 2 hours ago, covering her victimhood Olympic debut. This woman got on The View and told a whole tale. You know, the old folks, you weren't allowed to say or say that an adult was lying. You had to say they was telling a story or they was telling a tale. Well, I'm grown. And Pam Grier was out here lying. Nobody believes that foolishness. So if you have not had a chance to watch that video, I just had to break it down and make it plain and just let the people know that to be a leftist at this point, it is so sad because these people are not honest. They just lie. They lie about stuff you ain't even got to lie about. her Juicy Smollier, what was the NASCAR boy with the news? It just, if oppression is so real, why do y'all have to make it up? You're out here crying wolf like a bunch of children. And it's so funny because I was talking to a friend of mine earlier today, and we both agreed that leftists are literally like children who psychologically and mentally their growth is just stunted. All they know how to do is emote, kind of like a child, for example. And I'm going to relate this to our topic for tonight. We're going to talk about what's going on up in Minnesota with the protests and the BLM arrest. But think about it. If you are a parent and you have a child, and children, they feel before they think, because that aspect of their brain hasn't really matured, and they're not really trained in the art of using common sense and logic and wisdom. So let's say we're outside and you've got your bright-eyed and bushy-tailed preschooler or even elementary school child in the car, and they see a homeless person on the street, and it's cold, like it's really, like right now it is, I don't know what the degrees are. It's 80. Ooh, is it really 80 degrees in here? Ooh, that ain't gonna work. We're gonna turn that fan on. But let's say it's cold outside and your daughter or your little Sam sees a homeless person out on the street, or they see a gang of homeless people out on the street. The feeler aspect of the child will say, "Mommy, can we bring him home? He looks cold." And you're like, "Baby, we can't bring all these people home. I understand. It doesn't mean that we don't have empathy for that person, but it just means, like, realistically, we can't bring them into our house because we don't know anything about this man. He could, be a pedophile, or he could be a drug addict, or he could very well just be a man who at one time had a family and fell on hard times." All of those things, one or all of those things could be true. But baby, no, we can't just bring them into the house, because if we bring this one into the house, then you're going to want to bring the whole block in. And this is not the way the real world works, sweetheart. Well, leftists are kind of like that. As you guys are about to see when I show you the clips of some of the confusion and the chaos happening up there in Minnesota, the leftists, particularly the white liberals, they are up there showing their whole entire tails. I mean, I don't even believe in the concept of white privilege, but if I had to categorize what something like that might look like, I would say look no further than the crash test dummies up in Minnesota, the white liberal that's on the ground crying and screaming. And you got one rubbing her back, talk about let it out. Let it out. What is her name? What is your name? I mean, they're like unhinged children that are unable to think in proper categories about this immigration issue. And all they know how to do is emote. They're like the child that just wants to bring the whole homeless shelter to the house, but they ain't really thought through how we going to take care of them. How many beds do we have? How many blankets do we have? What happens after we bring them home and we feed them tonight? Then what would tomorrow look like? They ain't thought none of that through. They just feeling. And they want to loop you in, and they want you to feel too. And so that is kind of how I'm likening what we are seeing up in Minnesota. I'm likening it to a bunch of unhinged, emotionally stunted children. So, what we're going to talk about tonight. First, let me welcome you to the live stream. If you're new here, welcome to Unshakable with April Chapman. We are only streaming tonight on Rumble and YouTube. Something happened with X, and I don't know what it is, nor do I care to diagnose and figure it out. But welcome to the live stream tonight. I'm thoroughly excited to get into this topic tonight. I want to welcome all of our patriots, our America First individuals who are in the live chat, who are sharing in the frustration alongside me as we watch all of the chaos and the mayhem up in Minnesota take place and unfold before our very eyes. Part of it, I've watched it, and sometimes I just have to turn and look at something else because I'm like, these people show is crazy. They are shown enough retarded. And I know I've been told that retarded is politically not correct. But for me, I'm not likening them to a person with a disability. No, I am literally talking about a some sort of mental deficiency that leads these people to do the foolishness and to engage in the argumentation that they do. We are not dealing with a group of people who are dealing with the full deck. Something is wrong. So the media, they are trying very hard, you guys. They're trying to minimize or dismiss or kind of pretend that what we saw take place up in Minnesota with the church, I guess we can call it invasion. They want to frame that as no big deal. But to bring you up to speed, we know a church service was disrupted. A worship service was interfered with by these individuals who claim that they are fighting for free speech. Okay, you had congregants who were shouted at, they were harassed, they were wholly intimidated, and they were done under the guise of free speech, right? These people experienced this. And then what was weird, tagging along with this little cameraman in tow and his little roadcaster microphone was the saucy sodomite himself. It was Don Lemon. And I think it's interesting that Don Lemon tries to continue to make himself relevant, even though he's not, and he is still calling himself a journalist. And I believe he is trying to hide behind the journalist title in order to shield himself from accountability. But as you're going to see, I'm going to play some clips. I don't believe that's going to be the case. Now, before anyone starts screaming, this was all about free speech, like a toddler, right? Like who just learned a new phrase, let me make something very clear to you. This has nothing to do with free speech. You do not have a First Amendment right to invade someone else's First Amendment rights, right? Like the Constitution doesn't give you a license to engage in chaotic behavior. So if leftist agitators can storm churches and disrupt worship and intimidate congregations and weaponize the media, and if we see our federal government shrug their shoulders at that, I'm not saying that they have, but if we were to see that, you would be effectively looking at Christians who would be treated as second-class citizens in their own country. And I would wager, I want to go on to say and to take it a little further, because I don't think a lot of us on the right do not realize how a lot of this activism is designed to keep those of us on the right quiet, right? And I hope the higher ups in the GOP are paying attention, because if the Republican Party thinks that evangelicals are just supposed to shut up, we're just going to go out and vote and go back to our pews and not feel any sort of kind of way about this, they are playing a very dangerous game. This is not about politics anymore. This is about a huge power grab, protection of illegal immigrants. And this is also about whether or not the Constitution, as we know it, still applies inside of a church. So the activists who are telling us that they're fighting oppression, they are now the ones that are violating federal law. And we're going to talk about those laws that were designed to protect Black Americans and all Americans, for that matter, from oppression. So we're going to examine how that's supposed to work. But not only that, They violated these rights inside of a church. And so now we had two individuals, one by the name of Nekima Levy Armstrong. This woman is a self-proclaimed civil rights attorney and an activist. She was arrested for leading the way with this clandestine protest. There was another individual, Chantilly. I'm trying to remember if I wrote her name down. It's spelled, real kind of ghetto way. I don't know, but three individuals were arrested. And then we witnessed a judge basically give them or made an allowance for them to be released from jail. So an arrest has happened, but then they were later released. Y'all need to sit with this part though. This is the part that's crazy. Aside from the fact that I've noticed these two women, the big backs. Y'all remember Black Lives Matter was started by the three lesbian Marxist trained activists. Well, yes, these are their sisters in activism. I can't prove this, but I'm pretty sure they're lesbian too. I mean, they look pretty manly and masculine, and I mean, they don't look like they got a husband at home. I'm just saying. But these are the same people who are always screaming about oppression and Jim Crow and white supremacy. But now they're being arrested for violating a civil rights era law that was written to protect people from them. Yes, that's the Nekima Armstrong and all of the other BLM activists who were arrested for storming into the church in Minnesota, right? They are absolutely associated with Black Lives Matter. As y'all know, they walked into the church service and they didn't ask permission. In fact, we now know that some of them were there before the service began and strategically sat in the service and waited until the right time for them to pop off. But they didn't ask permission. They didn't wait until the service ended. They didn't stand outside and protest peacefully. They stormed into worship. They got up. They disrupted the service. They chanted all of their empty, mindless political slogans and interfered with Christian congregants who were there to pray and worship God. And now, including Nekima, she's been arrested by federal authorities. So let's go ahead, and I want you guys to hear from Harmeet Dillon, who she's got some sharp criticism for these individuals. And I want you guys to hear what she has to say. So let's take a listen.
Story right now. It is charges in Minnesota and potentially more. I'm pleased to bring in right now Harmeet Dillon, Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights at the U.S. Department of Justice. Of course, before joining the administration and the DOJ, Harmeet had founded the Dillon Law Group, a legal practice with offices in California, New Jersey, Florida, and also the Center for American Liberty, a nonprofit organization dedicated to civil liberties, legal claims. Harmeet, always a pleasure to have you. I want to get right into what these charges are that we saw from the DOJ. We had 3 people arrested. Not Don Lemon, though. He has still come out, though, to say that he is the one who needs an apology. This after seeing 3 people taken in for the church protest at the house of worship. Here he is.
Look, I stand proud and I stand tall. This is not a victory lap for me because it's not over. They're going to try again and they're going to try again. And guess what? Here I am. Keep trying. That's not going to stop me from being a journalist. You're not going to diminish my voice. Go ahead, make me into the new Jimmy Kimmel if you want. None of this is about.
Sir, you already are the new Jimmy Kimmel. You've been canceled. You don't work for a network. You don't work for anybody. You out here on YouTube like the rest of us. You're a struggle streamer, okay? Listen, Don, cut it out. Cut it out.
Justice. This is about power, and it's about people who are incompetent.
Notice how when he says that, he is right. I actually agree with Saucy Sodomite Lemon. I do. It is about power. It's about Democrat power. They're losing power, and they are recklessly behaving this way because this is their last ditch effort to try to get back into power. And because they're losing power is why they're crashing out like this. This is absolutely about power. He's right. Then he said it was about power. And let me play it again.
And it's about people who are incompetent.
Yes, we agree. Democrat leadership is wholly incompetent. That's why we voted for Donald Trump. We saw what the sock puppet and his curry queen sidekick was doing while they were in office, tearing this country down and bringing us down to the pit. It was a level of incompetence we've never seen before. So you were right, Don. This is about power. Y'all not getting it back, and incompetence. Us tired of living under y'all's incompetence. That's what this is about. Like, for example, I wish the messaging from the right, there needs to be a memo. Stop it. I don't know how we're going to do this. I wish I could put together a form letter of talking points that we could send to every senator, to every congressperson, and to every Republican representative in the House. We need a nice one-pager to help them. I don't care where you are. If somebody sticks a microphone in your face, this is what you say. You need to say the reason why the Democrats are demanding that ICE get out of Minnesota and is demanding that they leave because they know that the amount of fraud that has taken place in Minnesota, Democrat footprints and fingerprints are all over it. And they don't want ICE there because they know if we start apprehending illegal immigrants and we get them to talk, oh, they're going to start singing like a canary. Oh, and they're going to name names. They're going to be like, listen, if you let me stay, I'll tell you who we've been putting money in the pockets of. If you let me stay, yes, okay, we did commit some crimes, but we didn't act alone. Those immigrants, the ones that are illegal and involved in the crime, oh, I know there's a way we can get them to start talking. Every right-leaning Republican lawmaker needs to articulate with much clarity anytime they get a mic just shoved in their face. This is what they need to say. They need to say that Democrats do not want this immigration problem to end. And they need this chaos to distract from all of the fraud and how their hands have been in the cookie jar and how they've been benefiting from it because it's keeping them in power and how they have been enriching the pockets of these illegals and how it's the illegals that are pulling the strings behind these Democrat lawmakers' back. You think Jacob Frey is out here trying to sound all big and bold with his chest all puffed out because he cares about the illegals? No, it's because he is trying to protect the power. That's what he's trying to protect. But people on the right, if we don't make our messaging very clear and succinct and repeat it over and over and over again, the people of America who, like the low IQ ones, who are struggling to understand why ICE is there and why they must continue with their efforts to get these illegals out, only we can shape this narrative. But for whatever reason, I don't know why we're afraid to just implicate and say that the Democrats are crooks and this is a power grab for them. I didn't even let Harmeet start talking yet. Come on, Harmeet.
He has hired well-known, prominent defense attorney Abby Lowell, who once, of course, represented Hunter Biden, who says basically that this was constitutionally protected activity as a journalist. What's your take on that, Harmeet?
Well, Abby Lowell can posture all he wants, but the magistrate didn't give that reason or any other reason, and Abby Lowell presented no arguments to the court because when you go in front of a magistrate with these types of charges, it's not known to the people who are being charged in advance. That's the beginning of the process to get an arrest warrant. And so we made a presentation to the magistrate judge. Two of my prosecutors worked tirelessly from Sunday night until presenting on Tuesday with the U.S. Attorney's Office, and the Attorney General was right there on the scene as well. And the magistrate judge, who is married to someone who works for Attorney General Keith Ellison, who has had a lot to say about ICE and a lot to say about our FACE Act theory, declined to give us all that we were asking for. So that's just part of the process. There are many other steps in this process, and there are other ways to pursue charges. I personally think this magistrate judge abdicated his duty. He should have looked more carefully at the evidence. Unfortunately, a lot of these judicial officers, and he's an inferior judicial officer, he's not an Article III judge, are unfamiliar with the FACE Act's protection of houses of worship because prior administrations have never pursued it. Yeah.
When you say the judge has a connection to someone in Keith Ellison Attorney General's office, are they married?
They're married.
What's the relationship
They're
there?
married. So he's married to his wife, Caitlin. Caitlin has reposted and liked Keith Ellison's trashy comments about ICE and about the state of Minnesota suing the United States to enjoin our ICE officers from being able to do their jobs, putting them in danger. We've won a round in that lawsuit at the Department of Justice. The Eighth Circuit has put an administrative stay on the lower court's ruling and allowed the ICE officers to go about their business. But on top of that, after this incident occurred on Sunday, Keith Ellison went out there and openly said that the FACE Act does not apply to attacks on houses of worship. It only protects abortion clinics. This is either illiterate or deliberately deceptive. And
maybe both. I do believe he's low IQ, but he's absolutely being deceptive. I looked up, we're going to actually go over the FACE Act and kind of unpack what it is, how it came about. He absolutely is being deceptive, but y'all got to pray my sanctification, because when I tell you I can't stand these enemies of the country, enemies of the cross. These people are the most anti-God, anti-Christian, just evil people you will ever encounter. To watch them just lie the way they do, it really makes you angry.
Both.
Maybe both, but the thing is, when you're either a prosecutor like I am or you are a judge, you have to recuse yourself to avoid not only actual bias, but also the appearance of impropriety. There is definitely the appearance of impropriety here when a magistrate refuses to honor those requirements. And so here we are, but we are just at the beginning of this process. I intend to identify and find every single person in that mob that interrupted that church service in that house of God and bring them to justice. And that includes so-called journalists who participated in harassing Americans at worship.
I was very pleased to hear that they are. And see, the thing about these left-wing activists, they love the spotlight. So their deeds, their wicked deeds, are all on camera, and I do believe that they will be identified. They're going to be identified, and they're going to be charged. At least that's the goal. And so, what I want to do now, I want to engage a little bit with what she said. She talked about this conflict of interest that exists within Keith Ellison's office. Someone is married. The magistrate judge, it was difficult to follow. I couldn't tell if she was saying that the magistrate judge who ruled in this case, if his wife is married to I was like, whose wife is married to someone in the AG's office? That's the part that I did not quite understand. But at the end of the day, these modern Democrat activists, what they're trying to do, or what they've done, is they're now violating the very laws that their political ancestors forced on Black Americans over a century ago. Like, they've become the very thing that they claim to fight. So the first thing I want to do, we need to talk about these laws. There were two laws that I wanted to engage with. One of them was the Klan Act. As soon as I can find it. Ah, here we go. Ooh, I didn't realize I had to scroll that far down. There we go. So we have the Klan Act. It's also known as the Civil Rights Act of 1871. And the reason why this law was passed, the goal was to stop organized. Y'all, when I tell you the English language is so important and reading is fundamental, listen to this. The purpose of the Klan Act, also known as the Civil Rights Act of 1871, the purpose of it was to stop organized intimidation, okay, coordinated harassment, and conspiracies designed to deprive Americans of their constitutional rights. So let's break that down. Leave me a 1 in the chat if this was absolutely organized intimidation. These people, out of their own mouths, said that this was a clandestine operation. They met ahead of time. Their whole goal was to put pressure on these individuals. They knew, or they purposely indicated that one of the pastors at this church works or is an administrator for ICE. And so this church was targeted and identified for the sole purpose of the organized intimidation and coordinated harassment. They had their political chants, the taunting, all of that was planned ahead. This wasn't like a bunch of people inside of a church just decided to protest. No, this was organized. And the goal now, they may say that their goal wasn't to deprive these individuals of their constitutional rights, but that's what ultimately happened because they interrupted a church service and impeded their ability to worship freely. The service was interrupted. They had to halt and shut the whole thing down, and when asked to leave, they refused. I find it so interesting that liberals, aka Democrats, they've violated an act that was used to protect Black Americans over a century ago. It proves the point I'm always making. I told y'all, Democrats haven't changed. They are the same evil agitators they've always been. It's always them. It's always them. They've always been the party of secession, oppression, depression, rebellion, chaos, violence, bullying tactics. That's who they are. And everywhere they rule, all they know how to be is a bunch of tyrants. Now, this Klan Act, you guys, it's not just limited to the KKK. This act, it actually applies to any group of people that are acting in concert together to do a few things. One, suppress religious freedom. These people were not allowed to gather lawfully like they would because they were interrupted. It also, this act applies to any group who together works to suppress peaceful assembly. These church people weren't bothering nobody. They were in their house of worship, minding their business, worshiping Jesus. They were not allowed to do that because these people came in. And then lawful expression. Their gathering was lawful. They are an actual house of worship. And these people came in, stormed it, and messed all that up. Does this sound familiar? Does any of this sound familiar, you guys? Why is it? Don't you notice? Why can't Black folks see this? Why can't they see that the same bullying tactics that the Klan and the white supremacists that they claim they're so afraid of, why can't they see that they're participating in the same thing? And why is this not reason enough for them to leave these Democrat jokers alone? Why can't they see it? I don't know. I just thought it was strange. But There is a legal threshold that has to be met for this Klan Act. It's very simple. It has to be 2 or more people. They have to be acting in concert. So it was definitely more than 2 of them. They were acting all together. And then they had the goal was to interfere with constitutional rights through intimidation, coercion, or disruption. You only have to, in order for the Klan Act, the stipulations for the threshold for that, it's very simple. Very simple. I think that they violated all of those. So if a group enters a church and together they're disrupting worship, and then they target congregants because they are, well, here's the thing. I wouldn't say they were targeting them because they were worshiping, but they were absolutely targeting them while they were worshiping. That checks multiple boxes. And these people didn't need to have white hoods in order to qualify for violating the Clown Act. Did I say the Clown Act? The Klan Act. Now, let's examine the FACE Act. Let's go ahead and examine the FACE Act. Now, the FACE Act stands for the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act. And the reason why clinic is being used, because it does have some ties to the abortion industry. But this is where the left, they don't really want Christians who are paying attention, because the FACE Act explicitly protects places of religious worship, and it prohibits physical obstruction, intimidation, harassment, and interference. And it's when people are exercising their religious freedom, if you're caught doing any of those things, this law can be used to aggressively come after you, and it has been used to actually go against pro-life Christians. So pro-life Christians have long been known to pray outside of clinics. The FACE Act has been used against them, or during, if you are a Christian and you're counseling someone, or if you're standing too close, they will invoke the FACE Act. But suddenly, when activists storm a church, you get the crickets. They're not used to having things flipped on them. The tables are now turned. The key point here is, for Don Lemon, there is no journalist exemption in the FACE Act. So if you are participating or facilitating, encouraging, or legitimizing this interference, you're not just there reporting the news. Sir, you are involved. Absolutely involved. But I want to bring to you guys some historical irony here, because we need to just stop pretending. Y'all, the Democrat Party, I told y'all, they've always relied on mob pressure, and they did it during Jim Crow, segregation, any sort of political intimidation. The goal, they worked with the media to shut down political dissent. Anytime you see them involved in something, they will employ one of those. That has not disappeared. All they've done is rebrand. So instead of the Klan, they now call Black Lives Matter. So instead of the white sheets, right, you get activist slogans. They won't burn a cross, but they'll burn a whole city down and storm a pulpit. The method is the same. The goal is to silence oppression. To silence opposition and to engage in oppression. Intimidate those who you can't bully and make them do what you want to do. We'll just intimidate you. We will come in, control the space. That's tyranny. That is tyranny. And like I said, it's weird to me to see so many Black churches. Have y'all ever passed by some of these Black churches that got the little BLM, Black Lives Matter up? I know Stillbirth at one time had it. Freddie Haynes Church had a big old Black Lives Matter banner on the side of their church. How is it that these Black churches support BLM and have the banners up at their churches? But when you see that that's telling you that, oh, that's their call sign. They're not a church, or at least they're not a biblical church. They are a religious gathering. But if you know anything about BLM doesn't represent anything that the Church of the Lord Jesus represents. They don't. So if you claim the name of Christ and you repping BLM, you're antichrist. Because we know the church represents order, repentance, responsibility, right? We're all about the family, faith. BLM's the opposite of that. They want to destroy and tear down the heteronormative nuclear family, and you got a church with a BLM banner up. BLM, all they do is engage in chaos, not order. You don't get be responsible and let's earn on merit. No, you get grievance. There's no repentance in this secular humanistic religion, but rather you get Marxist ideology. They want you to worship the state. Give us the free stuff. And they rule by mob coercion. So when BLM activists walk into a church and hijack the worship, I'm like, all right, y'all are declaring war on the church. But what they're doing is they're using religious language to cloak their hatred. So, for example, Nekima Williams claims to be a reverend, and Don Lemon is out here talking about, I'm a Christian. Lies. How you booed up with a whole husband talking about you a Christian? That's not how this works, Don. None of this is an accident. Y'all, this was a test. They tried this and they wanted to see just how far they could get with it. It wasn't random. We already know. She said this was a clandestine effort. The left used, in my opinion, they used this situation here to probe to see, will churches push back? Would maybe, are conservatives going to defend Christians? Will the DOJ enforce the law evenly? I don't know. But you don't start authoritarianism by going to a nightclub and protesting there. No, it starts by silencing the church. Like, we've learned this through history. This is where it starts. And so I want to show you guys the clip. Hold on. I'm going to show the clip, but let me cue it up first.
You know, we get the message very clearly. 3 of them were arrested.
Why are you talking? Oh, you know what? We probably need to finish. Let me finish hearing what Harmeet said. Hold on. Let me get let me see.
Here we are, but we are just at the beginning of this process.
But let me just play this because other people may be looking at this as a cue to where they can go. Here he is with his comments after storming the church and knowing he was on notice.
They're using their political influence to attack people that disagree with them. There's no base for these charges. I did not block them from, their service. They welcomed us in. They never asked us to leave. The police never came in and removed us. So we didn't stop their service.
See how they just lie? Do y'all see how they just lie?
Your reaction to that comment, Harmeet, as you say, you will bring every single person in that church to face charges.
Well, who are you going to believe, this crazy guy or your lying eyes? And the video that Don Lemon provided while he was participating in this and interrupting and getting in the face of not only the pastor, who was very calm, but also numerous parishioners, tells the truth, which is they were repeatedly asked to leave. Of course, the police aren't going to come in there. The police are scared and not doing their jobs in Minneapolis and St. Paul right now. That's unfortunate. I don't blame them, given the mobs that have run wild there and their failed political leadership that's enabling these attacks on law enforcement. But it's going to be up for a jury, not a magistrate. The threshold to get a arrest warrant is actually quite low, and we feel it is amply met in this case for every single person who invaded this worship service. I don't agree with the magistrate's decisions here, but he doesn't have the last word.
Ultimately, it will be the next move, of course, that you say is in progress, and we hope to follow it when you come back and give us an update. Harmeet Dillon, always a pleasure to have you. Thank you for stopping by this Friday afternoon with the latest.
Thanks for having us.
Do y'all want to see the perp walk? This big back. Hold on. I want to show
Do we
y'all
like what
this
happened with the church there a couple of days ago when individuals came in and disrupted almost violently a church service? Absolutely not. Same thing. We should treat each other with respect, dignity.
Attorney General Pam Bondi announced the arrest of a person involved in an anti-ICE protest that interrupted a church service in Minneapolis. The Justice Department previously teased federal charges against the protesters who entered City's Church, where an ICE official, David Easterwood, pastors. Bondi says the FBI and Department of Homeland Security arrested Nekima Levy Armstrong, claiming she played a, quote, key role in the protests. The Attorney General did not immediately say what charges Armstrong had been charged with. Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, Harmeet Dillon, hinted at charging the protesters under the FACE Act. The law makes it illegal to injure, intimidate, or interfere by using force, threat of force, or physical obstruction against anyone who is, quote, exercising or seeking to exercise the First Amendment right of religious freedom at a place of religious worship. The FACE Act was commonly used by the Biden administration against anti-abortion protesters outside of abortion clinics, but the law also protects religious services from unlawful interference.
Sorry, I was distracted by something else. So that was the news story that I wanted to show y'all about that. And then there was one more clip. Darn, where did it go? Oh shoot! I think I closed the whole thing out. Oh well. Yep, I did. Let me see if I can get it pulled back up. Yeah, here we go. There was another news clip I wanted to show y'all. Did you guys hear about the individual who was shot today? It wasn't an ICE agent. This one was a Border Patrol agent. He there's new video that has come out that proves that the shooting by the Border Patrol agents was actually legally justified. I was trying to see if I could find a video on it really quickly. This one is from 28 minutes ago. So let me go ahead and let you guys watch this really quickly.
And the shooting also sparking a protest here in downtown Milwaukee. 12 News' Emily Pofall is live for us at Red Arrow Park. Emily, a very different protest there from what we're seeing in Minneapolis.
Yeah, Kendall, much quieter, much smaller, no clashes between protesters and law enforcement, but a message that matches the one in Minneapolis all the same.
No justice, no peace, no ICE or police. System is broken.
The protest started here at Red Arrow Park. Then the crowd of about 100 marched to downtown's ICE facility on Broadway and Knapp. Organizers calling it an emergency protest put together rather last minute after a Border Patrol agent shot and killed U.S. citizen Alex Preddy in Minneapolis this morning. We saw something very similar, this type of emergency protest, the day Renee Good was shot and killed by ICE in Minneapolis just about 2.5 weeks ago. It's got Milwaukeeans scared about the potential for increased ICE enforcement here.
So this protest is in Milwaukee. Y'all know how cold it is up in Milwaukee? These people are out in the cold. He don't even have gloves on. It is freezing. These white liberals have sure lost their mind. Here's what's interesting. Notice how it is very important for the people of God to be able to be sober-minded about this. That's the only word that I could come up with, because if you are taking in what the mainstream media is pushing, it's designed to get you emotionally involved and to think that ICE is out here murdering people. That type of inflammatory language is being used on purpose. They don't want you to think rightly and sober-minded or biblically about this. They want to elicit imagery of the Gestapo, right? As if this is Nazi Germany and that the ICE, the federal agents, are out here snatching people out of their homes and throwing them in gas chambers. They purposely use this language on purpose, and the media uses this languaging as well. They do that on purpose. Notice how food should be a human right. You'll see it right here in small little letters. This is Party for Socialism and Liberation, right? Right before that, there was another sign. Hate will not make us great. They want to frame that what the federal government is doing by trying to apprehend and eject these illegal immigrants who have unlawfully pierced our nation's border. They want to associate that action with hatred. They want to gaslight you to where you start believing, wow, American hates foreigners and doesn't want foreigners here. That's pretty hateful. And the goal is to weaponize messaging and words and language to guilt you. But we've got to be wise as serpents, and we need to understand it's important to wear down the wicked with their own words. You got to wear them down with words as well. This is why language and messaging is so important. And the federal government is not going to stop what they're doing. But this kind of messaging, like if you've got liberal friends and family and they're just taking in leftist propaganda, and you try to explain to them or try to get them to think in proper categories, they're going to struggle. Because the way the media will frame this is it like I've heard Black people actually trying to I've heard them say things that we need to abolish ICE. And we need to get rid of the police. I saw another sign. Look, right here. Where is it? I don't know if I saw it or somebody said it. Stop the murders. These people don't understand the difference between killing someone and murdering someone. Renee Good wasn't murdered. She was killed. She lost her life, but it was not murder. And then here, ICE out of our communities. Party for Socialism and Liberation. Somebody's paying for this, you guys. These people are the Marxist agitators that want to turn this country socialist. They're the ones, the open door society, no borders, just let everybody in. They actually want to overthrow America. Matter of fact, there's another clip that y'all need to see this clip. Y'all gonna have to give me a second to get it pulled up because I gotta search through my text messages for it. But when y'all watch this, you gotta hear these libtards in their own words. Take a listen. I'm gonna get it pulled up. See, it didn't take that long. It didn't take as long as I thought. Let me get it pulled up.
Land back is...
No, wait, I'm not ready. I wish there was
going to happen.
A bigger way, a way to show this larger, but all right, let me see. That's the best that I could get it. All right, y'all be all right. When y'all hear this, you're going to be like, these people are crazy. Listen to this.
Land back is going to happen. What we really want you to take away tonight is, as Anthony said, we're in the belly of the beast, right? We're all indigenous people who come from nations that are under occupation by the United States government. And of course, the US bankrolls the Israeli occupation of Palestinian land. They're one and the same, really. And so it's our responsibility as people who are within the United States to go as hard as possible to decolonize this place, because that will reverberate all across the world, because the US is the greatest predator empire that has ever existed, right? And so we want US out of everywhere. We want US out of Palestine, and that the goal is to dismantle the settler project that is the United States. Land back is going to...
Did you hear what she said? That last line was the most powerful that she said. They want to dismantle the settler project known as the United States. They want to destroy America. Y'all thought I was joking when I said that we are in a smokeless war and these people are trying to tear us down from the inside. These are Americans that are doing this, and they're not acting alone. There are some foreign entities that are fueling and bankrolling and supporting this agenda. But that was wild. Mind you, a privileged person can say that living free as an American. She could go nowhere else and spout that foolishness nowhere else other than this great nation. Y'all closed out the window of the news story that we were just watching. So let me pull that back up. Here we go.
And
I want you guys to finish. I want to play the rest of that clip.
2.5 weeks ago. It's got Milwaukeeans scared about the potential for increased ICE enforcement here.
It's wrong, and I think that all of us, especially people who are not minorities, need to be out here doing this.
Why? First of all, what is wrong? Is it wrong for our previous president to have opened up the border and let all of these people in here? Was that wrong? I would ask her, like, what is wrong about enforcing immigration law? I need these individuals to be able to articulate that for me. Why is that wrong? I just want to hear, because someone like her, a pink-haired, she's a protester, and she's probably standing here saying, well, in my white privilege, I'm standing here for the brown people. And it's like, nobody asked you to do this. But I'd be curious to know from her, why is it wrong? What about this is wrong? You tell me.
This affects all of us at some point or another. If they're not coming for your family now, they will. And
on what basis? On what basis would Border Control or ICE come for an American citizen? Do you hear the emoting? The dremotional way this woman is communicating this in -2 degrees. It feels like 11 degrees out here. It is 2 degrees. And she is out here saying that if they don't come they're coming for them now, but they're coming for you later. Who? Why? Why would they come for us? They can't explain it.
And this is irreparable damage to our world.
Emily, you made contact with Preddy's family here in Southeast Wisconsin.
Yeah, they didn't want to comment tonight, but Milwaukee Mayor Cavalier Johnson did put out a statement saying in part what ICE is doing on the streets of Minnesota would summon Americans anywhere to have grievances if it happened in their communities. Killing a protester who is on his knees rather than de-escalating the situation is a fundamental affront to American values. Americans everywhere need to wake up to what's happening in our country.
There's this melanated Marxist. Lord, I may need to, this bothers me so much that for my own sanctification, I might need to cover other aspects of politics for a little bit. Because to see Black Americans completely sold out to this leftist agenda, it really makes me angry. The fact that these individuals are here in this country They were born here. And they can be so ungrateful and so un-American to the country that there's nowhere else the black man can go and experience the fruits of success and prosperity like they can here in America. And to see the mayor, you are a friggin' mayor. Like, people elected you, even though I disagree with why they did. And this is the kind of rhetoric that spews from your mouth. These people are dishonest. He doesn't even believe this. I'm telling you, he doesn't believe this. But he has to say this to protect his position of power. They could care less if the city of Milwaukee or Minneapolis burns. As long as they get to maintain power, that is all that matters to them. That's all that matters to them. This is so shameful. Let me grab this super chat. My girl. Hello, Miss Tillman. How are you? Thank you so much for your super chat and for your support this evening. I greatly appreciate it. I'm so grateful for you and your beautiful family. Hopefully you guys are staying warm, because I hear it's kind of cold in the northwest region of the country. But listen, Cameron, you are absolutely right. God freed the Israelites from slavery, and they forgot what God had done, and they wandered around, lost, and never made it to the promised land. That is like the Democratic Party. Actually, in fact, they're worse. Democrats shake their fist at God. They actually hate God. Like the rain, God rains and provides sunshine and rain on the just and the unjust. And these people constantly shake their fists at the God of heaven, who's done nothing but restrain his judgments for them. Yeah, oh Lord. She crazy too. Jane Fonda is starting a movement to continue this chaos. These leftists like Jane Fonda, they don't have to live the consequences of their bankrupt worldview. Like, when I remember she did an interview and they were talking about how expensive the price of food because of inflation during Biden's presidency. And she was so clueless. She hadn't been to the grocery store. She didn't shop for food. So she was just like, I mean, eggs. Like, I don't like, how much are eggs? Like, she didn't even know how much eggs were and how cost prohibitive they were because she's got money. So she doesn't have to live the consequences of her failed leftist policies out there in California. It's just above her, you know? But she can virtue signal as if she cares, but she really doesn't, because it doesn't affect her. It's a mess. I would say George Soros. You've got the Disneys, the Pritzkers. You got a lot of these freak nasty Diddycrats who have weirdos and sodomites and transgenders in their family. Like JB Pritzker, his brother is a whole trans man. He's a man, but he thinks he's a woman. So whatever that terminology is. And so a lot of these trust fund babies, like, for example, Alex Soros, George Soros, his son, these people are just evil and wicked, and they have a whole lot of money. And to them, this gives them a sense of purpose to be evil and destructive. Many of them are idealistic and really don't understand the implications of the things they believe. And then some of them do. They want to destroy because they're just evil like that. That's who's funding a lot of this. You've got some of these NGOs. And the thing about it is the money is going directly back into the Democratic Party's coffers. This is why Minnesota doesn't want ICE there, and they want them to leave their illegals alone. Because, first of all, right before I went live, I was talking, there is this, let me give y'all some inside baseball. There's this act. I was trying to understand Another reason why the Democrats have such a vested interest in this illegal immigration thing. And there's this concept called triangulation, where the Democrat Party, they sit at the head, at the apex of the triangle. And then you have, just follow me for a moment, you have your labor unions, and then you have your business sector, liberal business sector. And in order for the Democrats to keep both of these groups happy, the labor unions and the business sector, this is what they do. So there was this act called the Hart-Celler Act. And let me just give you some insight as to it was signed into law in 1965. So the Democrats, they've been working hard at this immigration thing for a really long time. This didn't spring up out of nowhere. And the Hart-Celler Act, eventually it changed U.S. immigration policy by abolishing, there used to be a quota system that would only allow a certain amount of immigrants from certain countries. Well, what this did was it replaced the quota system that we used to have with a system based on family reunification and skills. And so what it did was it created preference categories for family members of U.S. citizens or permanent residents and workers with certain skills. And the intention, they claim, of this act was to remove racial bias from the immigration policy. However, this is how this act changed immigration patterns. You had the business sector, which benefited from illegal immigration because they're like, listen, these darn labor unions, they want too much. They want all these benefits. They want higher wages. And boss man, it's killing us, right? We would prefer, let us hire some illegals because you can pay them lower wages. You ain't really got to provide them no benefits. We get cheap labor and increased profits for us. But then you had the labor unions. Now, mind you, these businesses were giving money to the Democrats. Okay, mind you, I told you, Democrats are at the top. Democrats are getting money from both of these sectors, the labor unions and the business sector. Well, what happened was the labor unions were like, well, listen, we want more stuff. We want more support. We want more power. And Democrats are sitting back trying to figure out, dang, both the unions are giving us money and some of the business sector is giving us money. How on earth do we keep both of these sectors happy to keep the money flowing? This is where the triangulation comes in. So what happens is higher wages hurt the industry. But because the labor unions are demanding higher wages, you have to figure out how to keep both of these sectors happy. So both of them are kept happy by giving the business sector, give them some illegals, right? And what you do is you give the labor unions more power and more support. And this is how you keep both groups happy. That's how you keep both groups happy. It's a concept called triangulation. And so since 1965, if you've noticed, you have people who have businesses who are like, listen, if we got to pay these labor union employees, it's going to cost us more money, right? But if we get the illegals, we can pay them lower wages and it don't take much to keep them happy. It is the most strangest system ever, but this has been happening since 1965, and it's now getting worse because not only does the Democrat Party have both of these groups giving them money, but you also have to remember Democrats have killed off a lot of their support by way of abortion in the prison pipeline system, okay? 2, they've got to bring in a new class of electoral serfs, a group of individuals that they can offer and give free stuff to in exchange for their political loyalty. And so that's another reason why Democrats don't want ICE enforcing immigration law, because that is taking their constituents. Remember, the power grab. Democrats need immigrants for power because it represents congressional apportionment, and it also represents votes. If you've been under a rock and you don't realize that these immigrants are absolutely voting, they are voting. And then there's a race against the clock. The census is coming up soon. They need as many illegals here as possible to be counted in the census. Remember, the census counts bodies, not citizens. So there are a number of reasons. But now things are so bad that particularly in places like Minnesota, where you have this huge influx of a Somali population, the Somalis now are a voting bloc with a whole lot of power. And they can make or break an election. And so Democrats are like, we can't have ICE up here taking our constituents away, especially if they start talking. We'll lose votes, we'll lose influence, we'll lose power. ICE has to go. Jacob Frey is not out here tap dancing for Somalians and eating their nasty food because he loves them so much. That is not why he's doing it. He's doing it because he's got to he's got to pay to play. He's got to go along to get along because they vote as a block. And if they decide that you're not their guy, like y'all remember, a Somalian ran alongside Jacob Frey and lost. Why do you think that is? Why do you think they chose that white man over one of their own? It's because they got that white man in their back pocket. Absolutely. So he's going to stay true. He's going to stay true to this. He's absolutely going to stay true to this. Let's get these super chats. Hey, Sister Ruth. I have been praying for you because I know you are up there in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, and they out here wilding out. She says, Nekima Armstrong is not a girl. I know it's not a reverend. She lied, period. She instigates trouble. Well, here's what these leftist agitators do. They can get an ordination, right? And it doesn't take much to start a church. Like she either can incorporate as a church or get, ordained somewhere like the United Methodist Church or some Episcopalian apostate denomination. She probably has some sort of degree from a diploma mill and some fake ordination paper. They do that to legitimize themselves. And they'll even use Christian type language in order to fly up under the radar. But she's absolutely an activist. Now, she's not a real reverend. However, they've gotten really smart. These BLM trained Marxists have learned from MLK. Masquerade as a minister, right? But you're really a social activist. And then you can come up under the protection of a church. You can come up under the protection of the church by way of nonprofit status. Like, you don't have to be, a church is automatically tax exempt. They don't have to file for 5013C3 exemption status. Once you declare that you're a church, you're automatically tax exempt. That's part of the hustle. The pulpit pimps learned that. So she might be ordained. Like I ain't gonna put him on Front Street, and I'm not gonna say his name. I'm not gonna do it. But somebody I know, I'll never forget, we got into an argument about this years ago. He claimed that he went and got an ordination certificate and claimed to be a minister. And I'm trying to remember why he did this. It was for some reason. He was trying to present himself as a minister so he could bypass. I can't even remember the reason why he was trying to do it. And I was like, if you don't cut this foolishness out, I was like, I will not talk to you if you don't stop this. But I'm trying to remember. I should text him right now. I'd be like, you remember when we was in our 20s and you said that you was about to be an ordained minister? It was for something. I wish I could remember to this day. I can't remember why he was doing it. But it was to circumvent some kind of system. This is what they do, though. This is what they do. Hey, friend. Jay said, an officer had a finger bit off today. I don't give a damn about these protesters or whatever that fake reverend got to say. Wait a minute. Somebody's finger got bit off? What the savages? Officer gets finger bit off. That was my first time hearing that. Oh my goodness. Was that today? Are you sure? Was he working with ICE? Oh my Lord. I saw that from 2 months ago. No, that's somebody else. Oh gosh. I don't know. This is crazy. I don't have a clip to show y'all, but if I did, I would need to hear that. That is wild. Biting somebody's finger off. These darn animals. They just, y'all pray for my sanctification. I'm sorry. I can't. They crazy. I can't live in this world. Not like this. I'm like, Lord Jesus, Maranatha, come quickly. Like, I know it ain't gonna get no better. And I'm a sojourner passing through. This world is not my home. I can't get too attached. But good gracious. It's always them, ain't it? Anyway, listen, the immigration story is pretty much all I really wanted to cover tonight. I've just been so inundated with so many things. I've got a couple of interviews next week. You guys, I'll be on Stephen Gardner's show next week on the 29th, I think. I think that's today. I don't know. I'm super excited about that. This will be my third appearance on his podcast, y'all. Stephen Gardner, shout out to him. President Trump retruthed. I don't know how you use it as a verb. Truthed his one of his videos, and then Alex Jones got wind of it, and he, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be on Alex Jones's show. So I'm super excited about that. But that's next week. And then if you guys are familiar with Carrie D Programs, I'm going to be on her podcast next week as well. And what else? I think that's all I have coming up, other than working on my book and about to start resuming travel again. So you think so? So I've been trying to figure out what's going on with, listen, Pam, I love the blonde Barbie doll and all, but I need her to be a little bit more aggressive. So Kofifi Coffee Lover says, Bondi is working with one arm tied behind her back. She/the DOJ can't recruit enough lawyers because folks are scared to work for the administration. Dems will abuse them. Trump is out, and you know what? You're right. Sis, I can't. I have harsh criticism for Pam Bondi, but you are right. There is a level of fear and intimidation. A lot of people are, because of self-preservation, they don't want to work for the Trump administration. So she is struggling to recruit enough qualified lawyers to take on this task. This really has to be a service for your country. And you got to do it for the pure love of the game, because you will be persecuted. You will. But I don't think people understand just how serious things are. So yeah. Hey! Where have you been? You disappeared off the face of the earth, sir. The real Nathan Daly, you guys. One of my favorite YouTubers to watch when it comes to policing and law enforcement. I have missed your content so much. I think you kind of reemerged and you showed your face recently, but You guys, The Real Nathan Daily, please go over to his channel and subscribe. Shout out to him. He said, hey, April, thank you for always calling out this foolishness from these colored justice warriors. We need to collaborate soon. Listen, y'all, when I tell you homie disappeared, where did he? I have an award that I have been holding for you for at least 2.5, probably 3 years now. So we'll need to collaborate soon so I can personally give you this award. It is on behalf of my dear friend Henry from Support Our Shields. We back the blue, and we absolutely love our law enforcement officers. And we were so inspired by your story, Nathan, and the work that you were doing when you were in the line of duty. And we just wanted to thank you for that. So I actually have your award. It's either down there, it's still in the box, so it's not dusty or anything. But I got to figure out where I put it, and I will text you so that we can coordinate how to get that. Shout out to you guys. To you, Nathan. I am so grateful for your channel. I don't know. You just disappeared, and I didn't see a video posted since Jesus was an infant. But I think you're back to making content. So shout out to you. I'm so grateful. Anyway, I think that's all that I wanted to say on this DHS situation. You guys, this is going to get worse. They're going to escalate. The mainstream media, you guys, is doing their job of gatekeeping and making sure that the narrative of what's really happening on the ground, they don't want the people to know the truth. They don't want our borders secure, even though they are secure. But now that these people are here, they want to make it virtually impossible for us to get these people out. And they've got to go. I heard President Trump say that based on the amount of fraud alone out of Minnesota, not California, Boston, just Minnesota alone, if they are able to turn off that spigot and add up all of the money that went out that was fraudulent, we would have a balanced budget right now. That's how much waste and fraud took place in Minnesota. Do you realize, you guys, we haven't had a balanced budget since President Clinton was in office? And every year we have to get, Congress has to pass these continuing resolution bills. Because y'all remember when I covered the government shutdown, the way the government is supposed to work when everyone is trying to work in the best interest of Americans, you pass a budget and you balance it. But the Democrats want to keep spending and spending and spending so much for their pet projects and to enrich their pockets and to make sure they take care of their illegals that we don't have a balanced budget. We just keep getting these CR bills that give us permission to temporarily fund the budget and to pay to keep the lights on and to pay TSA and the federal workers and stuff like that. But we don't have a balanced budget. If we just dealt with the fraud in Minnesota alone, y'all, we could have a balanced budget. We wouldn't be spending as much as we were spending, and the American people wouldn't be paying so much in taxes. When I heard President Trump say that really made me mad. That made me so mad because I told y'all, these illegals are trying to colonize and make us, the American people, their slaves. I told y'all, they want us to work for them. They want us to go to work and slave and toil day in and day out while we pay to support and take care of them, pay for their EBT, pay for their Section 8, pay for their Obamacare, pay for all of the things and the programs, their child care, their adult care, all of these social programs. The goal is to colonize here and make us their slaves, and we work for them. And if you're an American and you hear that and that doesn't bother you, I can't help you. I don't know what to tell you. So anyway, I saw what I'm trying to see what Nathan said. Hold on. Please do. At first I was like, is he on the run? Is somebody after him? Where did he go? It's good. It's fine. Just email me. My old email address works, but you could also send it to April at UnshakeableWithApril.com, and that'll come to me as well. Just send me an email and we will work out the details. Like I said, I'm so grateful for you. Love your channel. I love when you cover policing and police encounters. It is good to have law enforcement officers or former Leos just in your circle of friends, so that whenever you're confused or you're unable to parse through these matters, police officers really do a really good job. They try to look at this objectively because they've been on the other side. They've worn the badge. They've put their lives on the line doing a job that they love. And they take the arrows and literally sometimes the bullets because it's what men do. They sacrifice all of the time for the good of society. And what thanks do they get? They get people saying abolish ICE, F the police, calling them pigs in a blanket. It's disgusting. But the moment one of these high calorie, big back broads needs the police, that she gonna want to pick up the phone and have one come to her rescue. But the Marxists, the cultural Marxists, these agitators, most of them do believe their rhetoric, but they have yet to live under the actual realization of this utopia that they think exists. If they actually had to live up under that, they wouldn't want to. They would not want to. I don't understand. If I'm not mistaken, has BLM been labeled a terroristic organization along with Antifa? Because it needs to be. It absolutely needs to be. I'm so sick of these people. I don't know what to do. But anyway, all right, I'm really leaving now. It's 10 o'clock. My throat is dry. I'm tired of talking. I am. I love you guys. You guys are the best live chat this side of the YouTube suburbs. Keep standing firm. Keep your head on the swivel. Arm yourself. Go buy an AR or two. Okay, you can never have enough. You never know when something might hit the fan and pop off, and you got to take one of these. We don't incite violence over here. We're not provocateurs. We don't agitate, but we do protect ourselves. And churches need to absolutely arm themselves as well. So until next time, you guys, stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and peace.